Hi everyone, we're talking about love thy neighbour, know thy neighbour, and everything to do with neighbours in rental properties.
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Hi Bronx, how are you?
Hey, Cleo, I'm great.
We've got the state of origin tonight. Are you going for the maroons, red hair and all, or the blues?
Do I need to say anything? My uniform is always there. I cannot hide that. Huh?
Well, speaking of our topic, and obviously tonight being state of origin, you would expect that some of the neighbours are going to be loud tonight.
Of course, and some of them will enjoy and come to each other and watch together. you know,
It's
So
true. I've
and
often
hopefully they will cheer for same team.
usually on the beaches for sure, but yeah, like you said, you might hear the disgruntled person going, "Come on," from the unit block next door. Oh
That's
dear.
right.
I guess all that sort of sparks our topic tonight, everything to do with neighbours. I guess whenever we bring a topic up that's property management related, it's usually something that we've dealt with during the day. Perhaps you can, talk briefly about one of your experiences today that you had with, a neighbour noticing something about our tenant or not noticing.
That's right. That's right. And you know what? Even when people are applying for a properties, it's always that question: how's the neighbors? Who's next door? Are they family? Are they someone who's nosy, who would like to know everything and things like that? Of course, we as a real estate agent, we don't know always what's happening. We know only if neighbors like our sign or they don't like our signs. If it's for sale, sign for sale or sign for lease, isn't it? That when we have conversations with neighbors because they're looking at their properties and go up in value or and especially when it's for sale, they want to know what's the how much is their property, what's the value and things like that.
It's true. And when
Yeah,
it's for rent, they want to know who's moving in, who's gonna affect my tenancy or my
that's
property.
right.
And
Are they going to park on a driveway or they not going to park on the driveway? How many cars they have? Do they have a small kids or what's the arrangement there with living and who is living there and all kind of things. But that's normal. That's normal. Sometimes that's great. And as you said, especially today, what's happened, we had a phone call from one neighbor who was concerned because she hasn't seen her neighbor for a couple of days, and also there was a delivery on front door, and was worried what's happened. But what people don't understand that sometimes our tenants they don't call us to tell us when they're going away or how long they will stay, um, and some people do call, some people don't,
it's
and that's
true.
how it is. But yeah, thank God everything was fine, and our tenant is on a holiday, happy.
So in this
It was
case, it
issues.
was a false alarm. And, isn't that funny how the packages are a good indication as well? If someone hasn't got their, Uber delivery or their, ASOS purchase for a while, that's an indication
That-
for a neighbour to either be concerned or not. I mean, it's nice
Yes,
that people still care and, call to check on someone's welfare, even if they don't know them very well. I love that.
that's right. And you know what? That is still on in a smaller unit, the unit blocks, where it's just for units or 8 units. They people know each other and they can notice if they haven't seen a same neighbor for
Yeah,
couple days or something like that, or if they can see package in front of the door. It's easy. But when you're living in example like a marathon, where is
so many
over
people.
200 properties, it's hard to see it, and then you don't know your neighbors, and you don't see them.
And it's such a big turnover of tenants as well in those big blocks. They might only
Yeah,
do 6 to 12, and then there's a new neighbour, which of course also brings me to the topic of units versus houses. Like the neighbours for people in a street that's tightly held, and the house becomes for rent, is a lot more different, like you said, than a tenant moving into a unit block as such. I feel the neighbours that have houses are really invested in wanting to know who's going to be living in their street.
yeah,
I do, I have neighbours that turn up to the open homes. They almost vet the tenants themselves, ask them questions, and sometimes an applicant can be turned off by that kind of approach. Oh, I don't want to, I don't want to be that close to my neighbour.
yeah.
So it's interesting. It's definitely
And
interesting.
also, if person is old-fashioned person, they then they feel more safe if there is some nice person who is caring, and of course, it doesn't cross the line.
Of course,
Where
they're not going to have parties every weekend, and then the street's going to be filled with bottles and cans. I guess as well, probably more so when you're purchasing a property, I find as well families are really intrigued to see that there are kids in their street, if there's other, if they've got kids themselves. And as well as when you're selling, or the neighbours selling, you're always hoping that a family with nice kids are going to go move in,
yep,
because they,
same age, same
yeah,
age that they
that's
can have a
right.
friend. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Just today, actually, one of our neighbours moved in and they knocked on the door to introduce themselves. And, my son went down and he's like, oh, they're all girls. I said, well, you can't have all the boys. We've got a lot of boys in our street. So it'd probably be nice balance to have some girls playing outside.
Right. Your sister need a friend too.
That's right. That's right. But yeah, look, I think this is touched on a nicer topic. You do get complaints from neighbours. We deal a lot with complaints, but there is also that touching side that we deal with neighbours that are caring, and you find that, like you said, they look for the packages, they get concerned, they want to know if they're on holidays, or things like that, which I find is still, that part of humanity we haven't lost, which is great.
Yeah,
I did have a
it's
neighbour
great.
the other day. Yeah, I had a neighbour the other day that when the tenants moved out, he came and approached me and he said, "Oh, those tenants were Airbnb. There were people coming and going." And we was like, I never knew during the tenancy. We never got a complaint. It was only after they had moved that he felt comfortable to let us know. So
Yeah,
yeah, to come forward. So sometimes, the neighbours that want to complain don't, because they don't want confrontation as well.
that's right. Or they worry about their own security.
100%,
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, yeah, we do find that a lot. That when you get that anonymous complaint, yeah, please don't
yeah,
tell them what unit I'm in and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Um,
And usually that's happened, when they don't like that confrontation or they worry about their own safety. But also there is the people that they knock on the door and say, "Hey, this is not all right. You are every time you're washing a balcony with the bleach, you bleach my washing. Can you please come and tell me when you're gonna
yeah,
wash the balcony, then that I can move my washing?" But that's another thing, and it's great that the people do these kind of things, because I think for everything communication is really key for great relationship, regardless if it's that with the property manager, it's with the neighbor or something. I think it's a communication is the key.
Yeah, definitely, you're right. And when you are looking for a rental property, it's also up to you as the tenant to, be aware of your surroundings. If you want private and you don't want involvement, then I'd go for a more like security complex building where, you know what I mean, it's not high density, or maybe even a bigger block where people don't want to do the barbecues on the weekend with the neighbors. Whereas if you're quite happy to, be in a community style building where, everyone and, the local coffee shops, you're going to bump into them. It's good to have a chat with local
Yeah.
people as well if you see them.
Of course, and that's the part of living in a in a community. When you have a neighbors around you, you really should talk to each other and should know each other. Um, because whenever something happened, who is the first to help you? It's someone who is next door, really. Till you call your relatives or your friend or something, until they come to help you out. Really, who knows what can happen? But if you know your neighbors, if you are good to them, they will be first to help you out.
100%, 100%. And like you said, the mature tenants as well rely on that neighborly security, which is great. Have you ever been in trouble stealing your neighbor's lemons or anything like that, Bronca?
No,
Off the tree.
I haven't, but I'm happy to share my lemons with my neighbors. That's so good because when tree is growing, you know how they say if a shrub is on that side, that's their shrub, they can cut, clean, and all that. Then it's the same with the lemons, or oranges. If they are on their side, it belongs to them, and they should enjoy it. And that's how I see
That's
that.
it. That's it. That's it. Look out for your local lemon trees, produce trees. If you've got a veggie garden, a community veggie garden, that's always
Yeah,
helping you out
yeah,
in these times.
that's true. That's true. But no, it's good to have a good neighbors. It is really good asset. It's a value.
Yeah, and I don't think that's, different to tenants. It doesn't matter if you're an owner or a tenant. You need to get along with people around you, and it is nice to have some relationship, depending on what your boundaries are, but a relationship nevertheless. Well, I hope
Friendly,
everyone's had
friendly
a
relation.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I won't leave any packages outside for too long in case someone thinks I've passed out in the bathroom and
That's
haven't been
right.
outside. Well, yeah, no, I think we've covered everything today, and we look forward to having
Yes,
another
you have.
chat with you once. Yeah.
Thank you.